right, welcome blockheads. It is December 4th, 2024. It is 4:32 p.m. East Coast. This is episode 100 of Business on the Block. This week on the podcast, we're tackling biometric payments and LinkedIn's posting secrets. We're going to tell you why your credit card number may be going away. You'll hear about Amazon's new supercomputer. And finally, LinkedIn posted some posting tips for how to become successful on their own platform, which we'll dive into. That'll be actually a little more interesting and for reasons you're not expecting. I'm joined as always by my lovely co-host, Michelle Peterson-Clark.
Hi, everyone. Happy 100th.
That's right. Coming to us from Australia.
Yeah.
And look closer to home for me anyway, Mike Neubauer, your ops guy.
How's it going?
All right. So I'm going to take us directly into story number one. From payments.com, MasterCard is shifting to tokenization. The MasterCard that we all know and love plans to phase out the use of card numbers. They're not going to be using passwords or card numbers for online purchases, and instead will use tokenization and biometric authentication. This all is expected to be in place by 2030. And of course, they're selling it as the aim is to make online purchases more secure. Thoughts around this big development? Michelle, we'll start with you.
So it's interesting, I think, in that, some people, they may have noticed that their credit cards don't have I've still got an old one, but it has the raised numbers on it. But a lot of new credit cards these days have nothing on the front anymore, but on the back it has the number printed, so that it no longer do we need to put it into the card machine at the store and go clack clack with the piece of paper on the top, which is the reason why I think the raised numbers were there in the first place. So I think that this is just the next step, isn't it? That you actually don't need to have credit card numbers anymore. In terms of, obviously there needs to be some kind of number that associates you with your account and all of that stuff. But I think that, MasterCard have really shown us, haven't they, that they are leaders in this. They brought out their music tokens a couple of years ago at NFT NYC, and they've really taken to the blockchain and the tokenization stuff. And I just see this as their next step in that line in that process that they're doing towards blockchain and having things a bit more encrypted.
So you feel this is the expected evolution. Mike, what's your thoughts around this?
I like this for reasons. One, it forces people into blockchain technology, right? And I think that's something that we've stated over and over again on this show, that, once this becomes sort of mainstream and one of these companies pick it up and just force people's hands into utilizing it, then it's going to, sort of create that awareness and demand that the technology is sort of here and it's here to stay. The other side of this is security. And, I brought it up on the show several different times. The security implications with respect to blockchain and just, overall credit cards, is still very poor. But if you combine the two and you're able to sort of analyze these transactions on a unique string of characters, AKA a token, these tokens are never the same, right? They're all unique. And it's a much larger code than the 16 digits that's on your credit card. If it's a 5, it's a MasterCard. If it's a 4, it's a Visa. These are things that are sort of like in place now, almost like your own personal card social security number, versus a string of characters, not just numbers, but characters that can stretch out 25 to 30 units long. So I think the security side of this is going to be even more important. But as we've sort of predicted virtually a year ago now, this almost paves the way for some of the hardware devices to start implementing this in order to accommodate some of these moves that, a payment portal like MasterCard is taking advantage of.
So I'm going to go right between the two of you, and I'm going to say I do love the tokenization concept, and I despise the security issue. This is still a centralized company. So the ability of blockchain to enable decentralization is not being leveraged here. You're going to end up this is another example, in my opinion, of the traditional finance system co-opting the technology to take us backwards with this supposed move forward. So in that regard, I don't like it. However, I agree that MasterCard is universally accepted for the most part. Everyone knows what it is. And if they are making this type of a move, it's a bellwether. All of finance is moving on to tokenization and the blockchain, and it's only a matter of when. So that's a good thing. We've been calling this now as episode 100 for 2 years, and it's taken a while. I'll be honest with you. It took longer than we expected in the beginning. Crypto is not the conversation anymore. These are traditional financial powerhouse firms, the backbone of regular banking. And even though they're not technically banks, they are the middle ground for companies to bring their systems on board, if you will, to the blockchain.
I'm pushing back pretty hard on the fact that crypto is not in the conversation. We're on the verge of Bitcoin hitting 100,000, right? Like, it's very much in the conversation right now. So
in the macro conversation, yes, Mike, but this is not. You can actually technically do crypto literally through MasterCard here at some point.
Yes. And again, that's where everything moving and migrating to an on-chain technology is going to help. Now, I want to correct something that you stated with respect to the security, side of this. Just because it is a blockchain solution, it doesn't necessarily mean that it must be decentralized, right?
I just hate centralization. Do you trust these guys?
I don't trust them as much as I trust any of these major companies, Yahoo, Facebook, whatever. All I'm saying from why I'm sort of excited about this is that this is a major entity adopting the technology. Now, I've said this before, there can be internal operational structures set up within a company like this, of this size, that live on blockchain. Now, it doesn't mean that Bob over in Australia is going to be able to validate one of the transactions because it could be a closed loop blockchain. It just means that they're leveraging the technology where all the servers don't necessarily need to be in one specific location, and that the validation takes place over this infinite chain of transactions that gets stored sequentially, as opposed to sitting on a server somewhere in some sort of a hard device.
And I think the other thing too is that, we have talked about this with a lot of different companies before. I think it is about control, but it is also about first mover advantage. So MasterCard always want to beat Visa at things. And I think 2 years ago, we were talking about the fact that Visa had patented words around Visa crypto or Visa blockchain, or whatever it was that they, had decided, and have basically done nothing with it. So, part of this, I think, too, is MasterCard saying, well, we're on this train where, it might be going a bit slower than it was, 2 years ago, but we want to beat Visa to the end game of this. And so they've kept on with this, with the tokenization and the blockchain strategy that they started a couple of years ago when everybody was talking about it. The rest of them have all dropped to the wayside because, until the last, few months, crypto was in the doldrums. And so, they're MasterCard is sticking to the plan, I guess.
Are you guys familiar with 23andMe? It's the DNA gene
I've heard of it. Yes. Yeah.
You send them a swab of your saliva. They tell you that half your family's from Africa. The other half is from Zimbabwe or whatever. That's Africa. So the point is they're going out of business. They're going bankrupt. And all that DNA that they've been collecting for years on people will be sold. And that's a concern.
It has been sold.
Right.
It's been being sold. So
my point is centralization has a risk attached to it that doesn't need to be there anymore. That's my issue, Mike.
I'm with you. And again, it's my job to sort of play ping pong with you on topics like this, right? So with that being said, everything we know about the blockchain technology and the way that some of these transactions have to occur, it's really a one-way street, right? You can send something to somebody, but somebody can't come in and take from you without you authorizing it, right? That's really the decentralization security metric behind blockchain. Therefore, there's really no 1-800-HELP-ME number. This allows for that, right? So again, I'm looking at this from more of a population adoption perspective of, hey, here we are with the technology. Let's put it to use in some regard. Everybody can call bullshit on MasterCard if they screw something up, because it will be open sourced in order to view these transactions. But again, I really feel that this is a step in the right direction, whether it's competing with a competitor, like Michelle pointed out, or if it's just a mere, hey, you know what? Maybe we don't want to pay for all this server space that we have, and we want to just try something different, a little bit more secure and a little bit more auditable. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. All I know is that he gives a timeline of 2030 to get this done by. I can only imagine not only what the blockchain technology will look like in the next 6 years, what AI will look like in the next 6 years, as well as what advancements in quantum computing and some of the speeds with computers will look like in that time frame as well.
I have put on my conspiracy corner tinfoil hat for this part of the conversation, Mike. You believe that this is going to be an open sourced MasterCard will allow people to take a look at the transactions, hence guesstimating the MasterCard's earnings, et cetera? Like, you think they're going to open source this thing?
No, I don't. But if there's a problem with any of the biometric authentication, systems in place, that will be a record transaction that will be tokenized.
Yeah, well, they're already having a problem with verifying humans normally.
And that's where the biometrics come in.
Right.
And this is what, look, the security behind this, again, it still needs guardrails, man.
I agree with that. I think that's going to be the conversation. It's not going to be that tokenization will work. We agree. The security, people are going to push back on this.
They will, because number one, most people are not going to want to adopt the technology. I mean, there's still people around the world, Michelle, that use the click-clack machine. So what do they do when they come across a MasterCard that has it printed on instead of, raised lettering? Again, with the advancements in all of these things, at some point, somebody's going to become the shoe repairman, right? Like the guy that just doesn't have a job anymore because it's not worthwhile to get your shoes repaired instead of just replacing it.
The other day, I pulled out $100 bill and I had to ask the guy, "Do you guys even take cash anymore?" And the guy was like, "Yeah, we still do." I was like, "All right, good." Nobody.
I mean, just the fact that you had to ask that question.
Yeah, right. Anyway, Michelle,
we went out to dinner last night, and my brother-in-law pulled cash out of his pocket, and John and I looked at it. Like, I think in the UK, for the whole 3 years, we didn't have as much cash as he had in his pocket, and he paid cash for dinner, and we were going, "Oh, that's money." That's real money.
One of my very first, I can't call her an employee because she was kind of an outsourced vendor partner when I started my company, was visiting from Miami, your town there, Mike, about 2 years ago. And I met her. She's young. She's at the time, I think she was 25. So I met her for coffee over at Starbucks. I'm like, this is on me. I got this. I pull out a $20 bill. She looks at me kind of funny. And I'm like, what? She's like, no, nothing. My parents use cash.
Yeah.
She didn't mean it as a joke. She was like, it was okay.
Yeah.
She was,
You're old is what.
All right, I'm taking us to story number 2. My parents use cash. Amazon AI. Amazon is building one of the world's largest supercomputers right now from a mega cluster of chips. This giant server will lower the cost of AI as it seeks to build an alternative to NVIDIA. So this cluster, as I'm mentioning, is called Project Rainier. It's going to power Anthropic, obviously. The server will be located in the U.S. They expect this to come online in 2025. And the concept is that this massive AI supercomputer is going to use hundreds of thousands of homegrown Trainium chips, which are made by Amazon. And that's the interesting part of the story. We'll start for commentary on this. Mike, what do we need to know about this?
Well, I think that we've discussed a couple different times on different solutions that some of these major companies are looking for in order to continuously evolve this little AI balloon that's just monstrous in size at this point. There's no slowing down except for the fact that if the technology fails them, then they cannot continue. So I think that they've sort of pivoted instead of creating the ChatGPT 5.17 that links to everything and can read your blood pressure just by staring at the screen. It's really focusing more on how do we keep the engine under the hood operational in order to make this work. And I think that this is going to be the first of many stories that we're going to see and potentially discuss over the next year plus, mainly because, again, I think there's such a high demand for it. We've seen, people investing or companies investing into nuclear power facilities. We're seeing them, sort of try to divert as much energy as they can, creating a new supercomputer in order to assist with this is only logical. I have a question whether AI had a play in actually developing it. What are the fall points on AI, and can you ask AI that question and sort of have it, assist in repairing itself and, sort of allowing itself to be better operationally?
So I want to comment real fast from a previous story here. Anwar was listening to us. I apologize for not mentioning this earlier. He was saying that MasterCard was aiming in Europe for e-commerce tokenization by 2030. So that's still the case. Anwar, thank you for the comment.
Yeah, that's what the article said too.
Michelle, what's your thoughts on this AI thing with Amazon?
Well, as Mike said, we've been seeing that, these major companies that are in the AI space, the Microsofts and Amazons of the world have been talking about, having their own power plants and stuff like that, because they know that it's going to take up a lot of resources and they want to do that the most cost effectively. I mean, it was only a matter of time, wasn't it, that they would move into trying to make their own chips. It's funny when you said, what was it, titanium or something? I thought that tranium. I thought that was a spelling error in the run sheet you sent us. I'm like, oh no, I'm sure that's not what he means.
That's what they call them. So,
yeah, tranium being a play on words of training in AI. Yes, I'm going to assume.
Yes.
I think that it is the next evolution of the step. And one of the things that I think about sometimes, Jeff Bezos, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, they don't like being second in anything. So the fact that NVIDIA has exploded in the last couple of years because of AI, they don't like being left behind. So this is one of those, it's a bit of a measuring contest, I think, in some part as well. They want to, to cut NVIDIA's lunch, I guess, in order to, create their own chips to take away the business from them, which would make them more powerful and NVIDIA not as powerful. And so I think there's a lot of that going on with this story as well.
So my thought when I read this was, believe it or not, I want to take the listeners to Walmart for 1 second, which is not part of this story. The reason Walmart is so powerful and is such a competitor in the space is that they own their entire supply chain, right? They can get the lowest, and that model is what Amazon is doing now in the AI world. I'm going to coin this term, or maybe that's from the article, but we've entered the world of enterprise AI now. Enterprise AI is the big boys of Apple, Google. They've been in it for a bit. Amazon is now the first company to try to integrate the entire supply chain of hardware and software. They would be untouchable at that point if they make their own chips. They own their own AI, LLM. They can run all their other business.
Their own power.
Right. They've got their own nuclear. Like, they are making them. This is positioning them where they are no longer going to be competing with Walmart. I mean, that's where they started it out. They are now going to be a universal company. This could, in my opinion, sets Amazon up to be the most powerful company in the world.
Well, it's very possible that they integrate blockchain as well. Let's not dismiss that as sort of an option in this, because I think in order to execute faster transactions and, again, create a system so that they're auditable even internally, you're going to want to tokenize some of these AI. I mean, AI itself, when the prompt is generated, it generates a token by its very nature. But storing that information and letting it run in a blockchain environment may free up some of the elements within, like, Amazon Web Services, for example, on where, they have a lot of infrastructure built out for the, just the marketplace of Amazon. Obviously, they sell those services to companies in order to host their own domains and websites and things like that. But I'm with you, man. Like, I really think that, them sort of building up the infrastructure of what they need in order to operate and grow is going to be, a critical point over the next decade that they're going to invest and focus on.
I'm going to take us to story 3, unless you have final thoughts, Michelle, because I want time to roast LinkedIn.
Oh, good. Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Taking us over to story number 3. LinkedIn is sharing social posting tips off of social media today. This story is that LinkedIn this week provides insights on how to build audience on their own platform. They share insights into the hooks that work, 4 that they gave us, Number 1, share a surprising statistic. Number 2, ask a thought-provoking question. Number 3, share a personal story. And tease research findings. That's the hooks they say that work. Now, they say the calls to action that will drive the audience are 1, ask a focused question about the reader's experience, invite specific examples from them, request their opinions, or encourage them to share the post. That's the calls to action. So I've got very strong opinions on this, but we're going to start with you, Michelle. You actually are an authority here and can speak to this. What do you think about LinkedIn's tips as to what we should be doing to build audience on their platform?
Hi, new intern. Have I got a job for you to do today? Write me a post that we can put up about how people can, go viral or get more engagement on their posts on LinkedIn. And this is the result of that. And then someone went, wow, that's fantastic. Let's put that up. Hopefully it wasn't the content and social media manager, Andrew Hutchinson, because with the manager name at the end of his title, I'm hoping he's got a little bit more nous than that. But seriously, this was an intern job. It was, here's a marketing 101 book. See what you can incorporate from that in your post, new intern. And this is the result. It's just ridiculous, really. I mean,
I agree. I almost feel this is a ChatGPT response. Mike, what do you think about
that?
Well, we talked about LinkedIn, sort of becoming second to TikTok as far as, some content creators and people looking for jobs and posting resumes and even companies going there to find people. So, I guess this is sort of like let's hit reset and let's remind people that we are a platform that is really dedicated for that. And let's throw in some of the absolute basics for people who have lived on Mars for the last 10 years. I don't know.
Weren't we putting our conspiracy hats on for this story?
Yeah, honestly, hold on a second. I want to get conspiracy on this. I almost think this was on purpose. Go ahead, Mike, continue.
Yeah. So, again, this is the 101 intro level, like sort of what does LinkedIn do and how do you actually write posts? The seasoned LinkedIn user, I guess the people that are there frequently, the ones that have tried to generate either content or business through that platform, they're going to look at something like this and say, what the hell are you doing? Like, this is 19 steps backwards to where we were just yesterday. But, is there an opportunity to target new people and bring them to the platform? I doubt it. Is this an attempt to do so? I mean, somebody had to pay Andrew.
Look, do you know, in 2009, it's 2024 now, right? 2009. So we're talking 15 years ago. I was teaching small businesses in Australia about social media and why their business should have a website and why they should start posting on Facebook and Twitter. And this was the type of stuff I told them to do back in 2009. So it's like, maybe it's an article pulled up from the archives. Maybe they're looking for content and they're just recycling stuff.
I want to comment. Anwar has left some comments here, and I couldn't agree with you more, my friend. He agrees. It's hard to believe this came from a multi-billion-dollar company. He says they've written it like they assume the reader is an idiot. This is drivel. This is like when Adam Mosseri from Instagram gets online and starts telling you how to use the platform, he gives insightful things you weren't going to hear elsewhere. When Andy Jassy is talking about Amazon Web Services, you learn things. This is unbelievable that they would put this forward. And this is because they want to become a creator platform. Like LinkedIn has had their fill of Resume Central, and they're trying to now be the creator economy thing. Great. But the most basic, idiotic LinkedIn wannabe gurus have given much better tips than this. And I agree, like they've got the data on their side. It's almost offensive that they put this forth and we're like, yeah, no one's going to notice. And by the way, we're the only ones that I know of talking about it that are upset about this. Everyone's like, oh, it's kind of cool that LinkedIn's finally in the game. It's almost like they don't care to really try to help people master this platform. Let's get some data around this. Let's understand what, they've got 2 different feeds now. How do they weigh these things? What is the actual driver of what gets eyeballs? If that's what they're going after, you got to bring the fire, and they don't.
I mean, I feel like they missed a great opportunity of just staying in their own damn lane, right? Like they were
What
that
lane
perfect.
is it?
Well, that lane of that resume dump, right? That
want that
job
lane.
seek. I get they don't want it, but they were unique in that field, right? Like they had that sort of market cornered when it came to things like that. Recruiter Central. I mean, people would go there, post their stuff, find recruiters to help them find jobs. Companies would go there, advertise in order to get it. Like they had a very specific model that was built out, and they, I don't know if it's the right move or not. I mean, clearly you're not happy, and I know you use the platform very frequently. So if this gets watered down with this kind of content, I mean, what's going to keep you there? Like, what's going to keep encouraging you to continue to go back and, post to people who have no idea what they're doing?
But the thing is, they could have written this article as in, we've had a ton of new sign-ups, and if you've never been on LinkedIn before, here's a basic 101 of how you can get contacts and followers and blah, blah. Like if they actually aimed it like that, then this article would make sense.
All right. So they've got two different feeds going on there. There's the traditional feed of the text and the pictures that we all knew and loved. And now there's the video feed a la TikTok where you can scroll on mobile only, by the way. And so what's the percentage split on these? How much content is going down each pipe right now? I'd like to know how much content is effective and what is the distribution and reach for each of those respectively? Like these are things that we can't find out. I mean, you can, but the amount of A/B testing required is so massive that no one person knows it. If they're not going to provide insights like that, that's fine. But then don't come forward and say, hey, here's how to win on the platform, because you're not helping anybody. And I feel like it's a real slap in the face because there are people, and it's not me. I use that platform daily. It's my primary platform, Mike. But there are people who really know that thing inside and out. And I don't claim to be that person, but they're going to be like, yeah, don't bother going to LinkedIn. I'll save you the effort. LinkedIn is going to, it's not the right move for what they were trying to do.
I mean, and I think, to be fair, I mean, social media today have posted about it. So we haven't shared the original thing from LinkedIn. I'm not exactly sure where that is, but like they don't talk about the video stuff, do they? They don't say, like, at the moment we're dishing up videos to people 5 times more than we do your posts. So don't even bother posting like written posts. Put up a video and 10 times the number of people are going to see it. That's not in the information they released either, which is just bizarre.
There was a dude, I think it's Ruben Hasid. He's posted today maybe that you can download and dump all of your contacts into your own possession. And he showed a little prompt through ChatGPT of how you can actually search. You can make your contacts searchable. So if you've got 20, 30,000 contacts, you can now find a software developer based in Tel Aviv who's proficient in Python. Like you can now pull that out of your own contact. That's informative. That's helpful. This is the type of stuff that LinkedIn could and should be doing and is not. So if you want to really be catering to creators who help them build their business, if you're trying to create entrepreneurs, then you've got to make the moves that do that. Instead, Mike, to your point, they either want to they want to get away from being a resume database central, but they're also not the creator center that they want to become. So where are they?
Well, I think we're making a mountain out of a molehill here.
I was annoyed.
I don't see this being the Bud Light scenario for LinkedIn.
Let's talk about Jaguar.
Yeah, that too.
Jag.
Yeah. I think that, again, we're so immersed in some of this stuff. There are people out there that are, coming into LinkedIn for the first time. They don't know what a CTA is. So, if this is just a 101 course for that, fine. But to put it out into the sphere where they put it out, I think that might have been the problem, right?
Yeah.
So
they didn't label it like that, did they?
So, if they were trying to target people like you who use it every day, then yes, clearly it was a mistake. If they're trying to target, grandma who just started her own baking business and doesn't know where to begin to find help, then you know what? Maybe 1 out of 100 grandmas will jump on LinkedIn and try to find somebody and start posting some content like that. Dude. So I'm not really ready to torch them entirely for this. Now, if they start, throwing pacifiers in everybody's mouth on all content that's, they're going to be pumping out later, then I'll retract this statement.
So, Mike, I consider myself a general content strategist, is what I like to call myself. But there's a cottage industry of LinkedIn gurus from real people like Justin Welsh or Dan Coe that are giving you insightful, and LinkedIn is going after that crowd.
I understand that, but look, OpenSea did this with NFTs, right? I mean, they just basically created this marketplace that nobody knew how to use. You had to figure it out on your own. There was all these YouTube NFT bro type content that was teaching people how to do it. And then they finally realized, okay, well, maybe we need to start creating our own, training 101 content and put it up on the site. And that's what they did. And you know what? At the time, it was sort of on the downside of where NFTs were, heading, but it didn't really have the right impact. It could have at the beginning because it would have onboarded people properly in how to use the platform. LinkedIn's obviously been around forever, but if they keep making these pivots away into all these different channels and these different feeds, people are going to have to figure out the best possible way to utilize some of this. And most of those people, maybe they're not looking to get answers from Dan Coe or whatever the hell the guy's name is.
I don't think the LinkedIn's been around forever. I know what you're saying. I agree with you. I was on that platform 17 years ago. They are not the same. What they're doing right now, that's a great comp. The NFT crypto bro craze is perfect. That is exactly why I'm upset about this. That's what they're going after. They're currying that.
Well, are they encouraging people to go to LinkedIn to teach people how to use LinkedIn?
Ask a thought-provoking question. Request opinions.
I mean,
what do you think they're going to do now? I'm going to pop that into my ChatGPT prompt, and my AI automated outreach is just going to pound people now.
Give me 10 thought-provoking LinkedIn questions.
Well, here's a question. Do they have AI integrated in their posting capabilities now?
Yes.
Okay, so then this even makes this even more irrelevant.
No, because their AI posting is garbage. It'll say things like, when you get an inbound connection request on LinkedIn right now, if I go to reply, it automatically pre-populates, hey, man, it's been great. I haven't seen you since we worked together previously. Meanwhile, it's a person I've never seen before.
Yeah. Well, they're all sponsored crap, man. Yeah, like people paid and they write that AI type generated stuff. But, look, anonymous LinkedIn user just wrote a comment like the LinkedIn from 17 years ago, it provided a lot more information. But look at Facebook. Facebook is no different. 17 years ago, you could actually go to Facebook and actually watch content you want to watch. You're not flooded with crap that you didn't ask for.
That's
right?
my point, though. But LinkedIn is pushing that way on purpose. I know they want to make money. It's about advertising dollars. They want to be TikTok. Great. But then you're now stoking fuel on the fire here by trying to ignite the crypto bro thing.
Well, again, they need people to come to the platform in order to generate traffic, share that traffic, and bring people back to the platform. The only way to do that is to create engagement. That's all these social media platforms are intended to do, is to just keep people coming back and interacting with the system, because they're taking that data and they're selling it.
If you want to build a real home for real people, you have to provide real information. Anwar's comment is they've become so successful they can afford a few brain farts. I don't think this was a brain fart. I think this is them just like, they're just trying to gaslight us, because if they can get people on the platform, to your point, Mike, they make money.
But if they think that this is the way to get people from TikTok back to them, then they've missed the mark.
Bingo.
In my opinion.
I don't know if that's we talked about that a couple weeks ago. I don't know if they're sitting around a boardroom with TikTok in a bullseye with darts in it, thinking 100%. This is public. I think
they are.
I don't think they're thinking public enemy number one. And if so, then they're definitely going about this all wrong, because they're using Stone Age tools right now in order to try to generate modern engagement. I think people are sort of able to see somewhat through this. But again, I'm gonna sort of take the different approach to this, man. Like, this isn't their brand. Their brand assassination, type of plan.
I disagree. I think they are trying to do a brand assassination against TikTok, and this is what they're trying to do, is get this platform to become the place. Like right now, Blue Sky's thrown a wrench in the works in the social media world. Everyone's fleeing X and over to Blue Sky. So all of a sudden, LinkedIn's like, oh, things are in play. Let's just try to drum up, here's how to win on LinkedIn. They're ripping off their own people, if you will. Like I said, the Justin Welch's, Josh, like all these guys that put out great, helpful, insightful tips. And LinkedIn is recycling this stuff into it's garbage, in my opinion. Anyway, I feel strongly about it. Let's do the quick wrap up. We can remove
my LinkedIn stock.
All right, so these are the stories we hit this week.
You've just made Mike's superannuation or 401k go down 20%.
You can tell who's from Australia around here, right, Mike?
Yeah, I invested in LinkedIn 17 years ago.
Did you?
No.
Oh, too bad. All right, so in this episode, we hit MasterCard shifting to tokenization and biometric authentication by 2030. Amazon has a new supercomputer with their own homegrown chips, and LinkedIn is helping us with helpful posting tips. What do we think was the big takeaway, Michelle? What do we need to know from this week's stories? What hit you the most?
I need to apply to be the CMO of LinkedIn.
Speaking of CMOs, the new CMO of with the former CMO of Coinbase, is that where it was? Is now the new CMO at it's a blockchain firm. No, I'm sorry. It's OpenAI. OpenAI's new CMO is the former CMO of Coinbase, which I thought was interesting. You've got this crypto crossover into AI.
Yeah.
Mike, what do you think was the big story this week?
I mean, I like the MasterCard one. Again, I singing from the rooftops about the adoption of the technology. This is happening in real time now, even though, they're projecting it 5 years in the future. But, that development is only going to encourage more and more participation in the technology, which is great, because, we can sit back and tell our grandkids that we were, one of the first early adopters of the technology back when it wasn't cool. So I like that story the most. And again, I think that the advancements in the computing, I think that's going to be something to keep an eye on. Amazon's not going to be the only one pulling levers like that, especially with the development of AI. Google will definitely follow suit. And then the LinkedIn one, man, I don't feel as strongly, but then again, I don't use it. So, frankly, I don't care.
All right. So I live on
social
LinkedIn.
Media.
Anwar has added in the comments, the fact is the bulk of people are intimidated by LinkedIn's corporate feel, and he thinks they released this to appear more friendly, quote unquote. I agree with you, Anwar. I think the most important story, Mike, to your point, this is a canary in the coal mine, this thing around MasterCard and tokenization. This is going to become, people will look back in history and say that was when it started. Because we've been talking blockchain of finance forever, but this is actually now happening. However,
does this count as one of our hardware type predictions?
No, you said the phone.
No, I said hardware.
But is MasterCard hardware?
It's a credit card with a chip in it. It's hardware.
Okay, it's a physical. I'll give you a little bit on that one. Okay, I thought we were talking like when blockchain gets integrated into the phone, like the phone, that people would then be onboarding.
Yes, and again, it's going to take a company like this in order to make hold people's feet to the fire in order to execute that, because the phone is only going to provide the technology that's in demand or that's required.
I think we're entering the phase where people are starting to get comfortable and they'll look back and say, you remember in the old days when I'm old enough to remember when people didn't want to buy on the internet because they didn't trust that the thing would show up. So you didn't want to put your credit card into the internet in the early days of Amazon. We're in that phase right now where people are going to have to get comfortable that there's no more credit card number. The ka-chunk machine you mentioned is now a token. Like this is a shift of mentality. It takes a while for the public to accept that.
It does.
But if there's an app that makes people waffles on the phone, it makes that a lot easier.
This would be that.
True.
All right. So we are Business on the Block, the weekly insight to the digital
100
business.
episodes. We're going to talk about that, right?
Yeah, we've been doing this, folks, for 100 episodes. Believe it or not, we've done this a long time. Back in the early days, it was a Web3 focused show that has evolved into the larger digital business because as Web3 became the thing, companies are moving into the blockchain, and that's really the powering force behind that technology of what powered Web3 has now become universally accepted. Blockchain is the term. And it's not just a cool thing. It's where business is going to happen now, a standard fare. So, yeah, we've been talking about this a long time. Michelle, what are your thoughts on this? 100 episodes.
And I think, too, that, like we have branched a little bit out this year into sort of media and, the digitization of business, I guess, and where that's going. And like I have to say that when we started this 100 episodes ago, I didn't necessarily think that we would get to 100 episodes of being together. We've had a bit of a break in the last month or so because of travel and
well, who moved to a different hemisphere?
Like
wasn't me.
Yeah, and people leaving the northern hemisphere. But like I love doing this with you guys every week. I can't imagine now doing something like this with anyone else but you two. And it's some weeks during the year, and people might relate to this, that your week's pretty crap and things aren't going well or whatever, but the highlight of my week is usually the time I spend with you guys. So I wanted to say thank you,
Mike. I don't expect you'll be half as gushy.
Sorry. No, I mean, look, I think this is a very important show. I mean, obviously I have a blast, and I love working with you guys on this too, but I think it's an important show. And if you actually go back and watch some of the earlier episodes, we don't really just regurgitate the same crap over and over again. I think we stick to some fundamental pieces that we know are going to continue to evolve with the advancements in not only blockchain, but even during the evolution of the show, we've talked a lot about AI and how that's developed. These are going to be continuing trends, and we're in this very exciting time of technological advancement and evolution that's hyper speed. And, just to sort of put some sense and logic to it, once a week for an hour, it definitely adds value to, my understanding in my career. Hopefully we add some insight to people who, have to, endure Marc's voice for an hour. But, again, I think that we bring three different powerful perspectives to this. Whether we agree or not is irrelevant. It gives us an opportunity to talk about it. And with that, it potentially and hopefully will lead to a better understanding and adoption of where all of this is going to end up. And hopefully for your own respective business, a couple tips here and there in 100 episodes, I would think, you were able to implement and take your business to the next level.
So Anmore had some great comments about the last one where he says Mike's deadpan sarcasm is definitely the highlight of his week. There are
not my shower cap, man.
You've fallen off the radar here, Anmore, as far as I'm concerned. Although, actually, on a serious note, we appreciate your listening and the comments. We appreciate everyone. For those who may remember in the early days, this was an interactive show live. It's still live. It's been live the whole time. I'm proud of this show for a couple of reasons. Here's distinguishing features of what we do that you will not find elsewhere in any podcast. Number one, it's been live every week forever. I want to say we've maybe done 2 pre-recorded episodes in 100 because we travel or whatnot. So number one, you're getting the real people. This is not Hollywood. Number two, we've been doing this for so long at 100 episodes and we have nothing to sell. We've never sold anything outright. There's no other shoe to drop at the back end of this where we want your money. This has really just been value. Number three.
But if you want to give us money, no problem.
We'll take it. This is a show like you read in these stupid LinkedIn posts, like have an opinion. This show is nothing but opinions. Like you get the real deal of, and we don't always agree, as listeners will know, which is the fun of the show. Number four, we put our neck out and make predictions all the time. And quite accurately, many times I might add, where we say this is what's probably going to end up happening. And we're right. And sometimes we're wrong, but we own that too. And finally, that last piece, downstream implications. This isn't a show of like, here's the news. It's here's what the news means. Because Amazon is integrating, vertically across all, and they're going to eventually own their entire supply chain. The implications are massive. That's not something you're going to get from reading a story that just says Amazon's got a new chip coming out. And I'm really proud of us, the collective three of us, for having worked through those things together. The live, the opinion, the predictions, like these, that's why the show is fun. And I believe that's what sets us apart in the marketplace.
Oh, it could be ourselves too, man. I mean, it's not a pre-scripted, this is brought to you by so-and-so, right? Like this is just us, basically shooting the shit for an hour every week. Right. And, again, like for what I do and for what, value this brings to myself, as well as to some clients that tune in, we touch on big companies like Amazon, but we also sort of boil it down to, the small guy, the small business, and show, some of those advancements on how they can sort of improve their own operations and their own internal infrastructure digitally, and improve their own messaging using social platforms and what to look out for, and how AI can be basically an efficiency tool for them. And I hope that's really the best takeaway from a lot of the stuff that we discuss. It's really not relevant to what Amazon is or isn't doing. It's really how we can apply this to our own respective small businesses.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then the only last thing I wanted to say was that the Bolt Nation, thank you to all of them, because they have been big supporters of us for a lot of the 100 episodes, which has been fantastic. They're going to be bringing live streaming back next year, and we can't wait to get back there and get back to them and have the chats each week so that we can talk live with people during the show. So yeah,
that's great.
And thanks to everyone that follows us on LinkedIn and YouTube and Threads. Next year, we're getting a Threads account. That is definitely happening. I'm doing that. That's my Christmas present to Mike, is a Business on the Block Threads account.
Sorry, this is a virtual tumbleweed that's coming across the screen.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week. Peace.
Bye.